post-game interview with some esteemed colleagues. Phreak to my left, you've got Doublelift from CLG NA to my right, and Scarra from Dignitas as well. Now, the match we just saw was, to say the least, an exciting one. Fnatic versus WE.
Oh, it was great. It was a really awesome series. Fnatic took out game one super convincingly. The 60-minute Baron was really awesome because they made this like mid-game adaptation where they're like, oh, they're grouping up on every Evelynn gank, so they baited them out to bottom in 3-man, and it was awesome. It kind of won them the game. The other two, there's a mid-game misstep from Fnatic. Reckless farmed mid instead of showing up to a team fight, so he pulled a Doublelift and took Raze instead of Baroning. And then game 3 was I just had to, I'm sorry. And then WE, I think game 3 just kind of played it just well the entire way through and kind of never let up.
No, I think it was interesting to see that both teams have been looking really, really strong this entire tournament. You know, Fnatic fresh off their win at DreamHack, WE just barely dropping anything this entire tournament and surrendering game 1, pretty much. I think all three actually ended in a surrender. I don't think any team actually destroyed the Nexus here in any of these games. So just showing that, like, once you have that commanding lead, do you think it's worth it? Would you guys ever surrender? I mean, like, is that something that's just, if they're too far ahead and you can't ever have a chance of coming back, do you surrender or do you always keep trying to fight?
Depends on how like your team mentality is. So if your team gets really emotional when you when you throw and then you keep losing and losing and losing and you get all frustrated, you might as well just surrender before you like cry yourself to sleep.
Of course, keep some morale for the next games, I guess.
Right. Like if you surrender early, like I think we rarely do it, but sometimes like it's always an option because it just means like if you surrender, it's like okay, we throw away this match and we go ahead and go fresh into game 2 and pretend it's like a 0-0 series.
Just wipe the slate clean.
Right, and that's the kind of mentality you need to have if you like start losing a game and it becomes like unwinnable. I think some of the times it's just you can't win certain games once you fall behind.
Now, I like this matchup mostly because the bot lane matchup. I mean, Wei Xiao and Reckless have both been playing exceptionally. And I guess you'd be able to shed a little bit more light on that. But you've had some words about Reckless, of course, that have made the internet pretty much. And then Wei Xiao as well has been playing exceptionally well. How did you feel about that matchup going into it? Do you think one had an empirical advantage over the other, or do you think they're both really decent AD carries? No Doublelift status, of course.
Yeah, they're no me, but no, I'm just kidding. But Wei Xiao's really good. I think he wasn't playing his like comfort champs, so he was playing Corki Janna the second game, purple side, which isn't good. 2v2, you're pretty much gonna lose almost to any lane. And then after he played Nunu Kane, I've actually like never seen him play Kate. I don't think it's one of his like best champs. So obviously he wasn't playing his like comfort zone. He wasn't like gonna snowball out of lane, but I think he performed pretty well.
So do you think he just won out over Reckless overall? Because I know he got his Vayne game 3. You know, in Reckless we've been seeing him play Vayne to much effect. He's been orb walking amazingly. He's just been trying to carry the game as hard as possible. But that game 3, it just didn't seem like WE was able to, or I'm sorry, it didn't seem like Fnatic was able to catch that Caitlyn. You know, there was one flash taunt from Soaz in the mid lane. He got the taunt, they got the rupture, they got the silence. She still flashed away, healed up, and was able to wreck that fight. I mean, was the key for Fnatic there to lock down Wei Xiao's Caitlyn?
It's certainly what they tried to do, and it theoretically works. You've got Vladimir, a lot of damage. Shen actually went pretty damagey, Sunfire Cape and Ionic Spark, and they just would like flash in with Cyanide and Feast, and they tried. The difficulty was like all the summoners were up, Feast was down from cooldown, and Pekka did not have a very good lane. He's 1v2, got zoned out pretty hard, and so they had about half their damage missing from that, and they got him low, but they couldn't pick him off. And yeah, their strategy was all-in dive, and he could tank the all-in dive. At that point, you're out of position. It's pretty easy to win the team fight there.
Now, Messiah and Evelynn was against 2v1. He was against Inrated and Reckless, mid lane, Vayne, and Lulu. As a mid lane player, Scar, I have to ask you, what would your opinion of that be? How do you think Messiah should have played that matchup? Because he did do some roaming, and it was rather effective, but he was relatively shut down in that mid lane.
I don't think you can play that matchup too well. I really think that 1v2s actually do shut down Evelynn, but if you 1v2 Evelynn, you have to have a jungler that can skirmish. Like I was talking to Chaucer about this while we were watching the game, and you need to pick something like Lee Sin, like something that can 1v1 the other jungler, and you just put a lot of pressure into the jungle, into the mid. And what can they do? Like they can't even relieve pressure mid with the jungle, so you have like indefinitely you just pretty much negate Eve from the game, and their jungler can't make plays middle. So if they don't make plays into the side lanes, they automatically lose the game.
Well, she was able to make some of the plays in the side lane, and another thing of note was we've seen, I feel like, more Mumu jungle than anything this tournament. Why is he so efficient right now? I mean, I saw Chauster play him a few times. I've seen pretty much every jungler play him, I think, at least once this tournament. And before, I didn't see that much Mumu play.
Well, I think like AoE Wombo combo has been really popular these days, and also for I don't know about, for us, we just pick it because it's one of Chasu's best champions, but for WE, I think when they have a Mumu Eve, people try to tunnel on Wei Zhao and just zerg him down. And when you have a Mumu Eve, your entire team will just get 5-man ulti and you'll all die trying to zerg WX. So it just shuts down that option for enemy teams.
Now, World Elite coming into this tournament, obviously they are very, very strong. They've shown their strength. But the last time we really saw them was kind of World Championships. They had that famous long match against CLG EU. And I feel like us as a North American scene kind of wrote them off a little bit. I mean, we saw them get beat by CLG EU and we were like, oh, they're not that strong. But what has been the turnaround point for them this tournament? I mean, what exactly is Wii's strength?
I think they're just overall amazing. Like, it's kind of like asking me what, like any team who can kind of be considered the best team in the world. Like, they're good across the board. And you're right, they got written off. They went, they won the Chinese qualifier, their top slot there. They got the auto buy into the quarterfinals, and they went 1-2 in the tournament. Any team that goes 1-2 doesn't look too good. Saigon Jokers went 1-2, right? And so in everyone's minds, like, well, these teams had the same record, But WE came in. I mean, they very nearly beat Counterlogic Gaming Europe. They absolutely could have had the tools to beat Azubu Frost. We'll see if they would have the tools to beat Taipei Assassins if they make it through the lower bracket. I think it's kind of everything. I mean, they have a couple of forced bans because of Messiah. Wei Zhao is he's very, very good at positioning well, not dying, or requiring the other team to dive him to make anything happen. And so we're not really seeing any, I don't see mistakes come out from them. I just see them play phenomenally well. They've got individual skill everywhere. I mean, they just have what a League of Legends team should have. They seem to have everything.
And they have loud voices at that. They get very excited, which is actually the most exciting thing to see, because here live, there's like a 30-second delay, and you just hear WE just scream and scream and scream. You're like, something's good. It's going to go down in 30 seconds, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. But you mentioned TPA coming up for the losers bracket. That is going to pretty much be our next match to talk about. On the second stream, we had TPA versus M5. I know you two were able to watch that match a little bit more exclusively than Phreak. I think he was a little bit busy casting.
Yeah, I saw nothing.
Now, tell us a little bit about the M5 TPA games. What exactly happened?
You want to take this away, Doublelift, or?
Well, I only actually watched the second game, and all I saw was Olaf build the worst build I've ever seen. He built Triforce, Warmogs, Last Whisper.
It's the best build ever.
Would you?
Yeah, for Phreak it's good.
Would you say his build was trash?
I guess so. Yeah, it was pretty trash. A dumpster.
It just ended up that I think M5 was in the better position the second game, and TPA just played the split push Nidalee really well. They really didn't have the tools to be able to stop her, because you kind of need, if you're looking to stop Nidalee, you need someone who can 1v1 her, or CC to be able to stop her disengage, her runaway, and they had Mundo jungle with Corki Sona, so they couldn't really do anything once he got ahead of the Olaf bottom. Olaf built really weirdly. He went Triforce Rush into Warmogs into Last Whisper. So probably the very strangest build. He relied entirely on his ulti for resists, and he didn't have much armor and MR to be able to tank any kind of damage late game. So they got to really late. Even though they got a really good pick off and got a free Baron, they weren't able to close out the game because TPA just was able to kill Olaf and then run through their whole team.
Oh, I saw also in game 2 that TPA was given Stanley's Nidalee and Toys' Orianna, which I feel like is something that you probably should not do against TPA. I mean, Orianna, Toys' Orianna is regarded as his best champion. You don't really give it to the best team in the world, or else you could be in dire straits pretty much. I saw Alex Itch was able to farm remarkably well, actually, in Diana. I think in game 1, he had roughly 320 CS at the 28, 27 minute mark.
Oh, actually, yeah. He had huge amounts of CS. He's probably the most farmed character in the game, and what happened was TPA just built, they had an MF, and they just got really good team fights off, and then TPA built super tanky. He bought a GA, QSS, and then sold his boots for a Phantom Dancer. So Diana would go on him, and he'd be 6 items, and she'd be 5, and she wasn't able to out-damage her tankiness. And that was the only way they'd be able to win the game, because MF got amazingly huge as well.
So what exactly, it seems to me that the scariness of TPA is all about their team fights. They seem to be impeccable. Every time I watch it, I feel like they hit the ultimates on the right people. They always have exceptional positioning. And on top of that, it's snowballed from their great laning presence as well. None of them are particularly bad in lane. Bebe down bot's doing his job. Toys, Stanley, they're all doing their job. And then when it comes to team fights, they always seem, regardless of how far behind they are, I've seen them still be able to win team fights.
I think they're just all really individually good players, and they have one of the best, like some of the best teamwork of any team in the world. And it shows because they're able to transition very cleanly from like mishaps and like the different transitions between like early, mid, and late game. Like they know how to force objectives well, and they know how to team fight. And that's something that just the fact that they're very consistent on means that they can take a lot of games off pretty much any team in the world.
And I mean, they're definitely showing their strength. Season 2 world champions, obviously. Knocked down to the losers bracket, a little bit unexpected, of course, but they're showing some fight. They're showing that they can still get into this thing and hopefully make it back into the grand finals and face off against WE, which would be a fantastic match. But first, they have to go through Fnatic in the losers bracket, the losers finals. How do you think that matchup exactly is going to go, Doublelift? I'll talk to you first.
I think XPK is really, really good. And it feels like TPA actually plays the same way every single game. They generally do very, not gimmicky, but a little risky level 1s. TPA tends to do that. And if you just kind of analyze them, I feel like European teams in general, Fnatic, M5, they like adapt really well. So like immediately like the first game against WE or whatever, they adapted to what WE was doing like this. And if Fnatic can adapt, they can definitely win. But I think like skill-wise, individual player-wise, TPA has the advantage.
Thoughts, Scar?
Pretty much agree. I feel like Wei Zhao is like World Elite's bottom lane. I feel like it's much better than Fnatic's, and to be able to win the series, what's going to happen is you have to put a lot of pressure down there to relieve World Elite's bottom lane's pressure, and it might turn out really bad.
It's TPA versus.
Wait, it's TPA versus.
Yeah.
TPA versus Fnatic.
Why do I think it was Fnatic?
You're cut.
Awkward.
That's the video.
My bad.
Wei Zhao versus Reckless. No, not Wei Zhao.
Wait,
See,
what?
I just screwed up too.
Wow. Okay,
Baby versus
Baby. Then I pretty much have the same opinion then, because I think Baby's bottom lane is almost just as good as World Elite's, and I don't know. I wasn't very impressed by Reckless today because I think in the second game that they played, he almost single-handedly threw that game with bad positioning, and his Vayne wasn't able to pull it through third game. Like I don't know if that was because of like the team. Overall, the team fights didn't come out in their favor, or just because, I don't know. It just looked really weird from my perspective because it seemed like the other AD carry had much more impact on the game than Reckless did.
Oh, you spoke yesterday, I believe, at an analysis panel. You said that, in your opinion, XPK is amazing. You know, like it's very hard to lane against him. Do you think Toys might have some trouble with XPK at all?
I think generally. I was talking to some people back there, and we all think like the European mids are all really good. European Asian mids are all really, really good. And typically that's not the lane that loses in any of these clashes against other teams. Like I think both players are equally skilled. They just play like different champions. Like Toys is generally more of a passive player, passive farmer, one of the best in the world at it. Plays Orianna extremely well, plays Anivia, stuff like that. And then we have PK, who plays like all these aggressive mids like Katarina. We have Eve. We have just like he looks to make plays. Diana, he looks to make a lot of plays, and it'll be curious to see these two types of archetypes clash in the middle.
Most definitely.
I actually think European mids are by far the best in the world because you can even tell by the way Fnatic played against WE when like, oh, Vlad versus Eve, it's an okay matchup. Why don't we just send 2v1 to shut down like Eve mid and like stuff like that. You don't really see happen except from Europeans where they just absolutely dominate mid and do some crazy stuff. Like Fnatic also does like TP mid Katarina and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Thoughts on the Fnatic TPA coming out?
I feel like I kind of agree with you guys a lot, right? That Fnatic's kind of spiky, that they're getting their advantages from individual plays, you know, whether it's by an individual like Xpeka or like N-rated with really great blitzcrank grabs, but they get these like big moments, and that's how they beat TPA both times. It was the counter gank triple kill in game 1, and like ludicrous blitzcrank grabs to turn it around in game 2. You know, they met in the winner bracket semis. You know, Fnatic came through on that one, and it's you know, for them it was they were almost, you know, very special games both times. Taipei Assassins, I feel like, are more well-rounded, that like if nothing special happens, they'll just grow and just kind of get better. And so, you know, Fnatic needs that like crazy adaptation that they're so known for. And if they can make it happen, then they'll take it. But it's like on them to make a cool move.
So it seems like all things held constant, you're kind of picking TPA unless something special happens, correct?
I mean, Fnatic's good at making those moves. I can't make a prediction.
Can't
I
make it. Can't make it. What about you? TPA Fnatic, say
TPA.
it. TPA?
I say 2-1 TPA. I think Fnatic will take a game.
All right, we'll see how it works out very, very shortly. TPA versus Fnatic will be the next game in the losers finals. But first, we do have a nice set from DJ Mike Realm coming up on main stage. Thank you again, Phreak, Doublelift, and Scarra. Stay tuned here at IPL 5 at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas.